Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. His Majesty King Abdullah, the Supreme Commander of the Jordan Armed Forces Arab Army, ordered the disbursement of 50 JDs to all Army and Security Forces members, including retirees who are receiving treatment in hospitals. The royal gesture came on the occasion of His Majesty's birthday. Hundreds of Jordanians took to the streets across the kingdom following Friday prayers in protest against the government's decision to raise prices of foodstuffs and bread. In downtown Amman, protesters demonstrated in front of Al-Husseini Mosque, urging the government to reconsider its recent economic decisions. Similar such protests took place in Al-Karak, Madaba, Salt and Zarqa, in which demonstrators called on the government to find other alternatives to price hikes and take measures to protect citizens. Arab foreign ministers called for the creation of a UN-backed multilateral mechanism to help revive the Palestinian-Israeli peace process. The ministers' call was made during their meeting in Cairo to discuss U.S. President Donald Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. They also called for an international conference to relaunch a credible and time-bound peace process based on the international legitimacy resolutions, the principle of land for peace, and the two-state solution on Palestinian lands occupied by Israel in '67. The foreign ministers reaffirmed their support for Palestine to obtain full membership at the United Nations and called for mobilizing international support for it. Moreover, they expressed their rejection of attempts aimed at ending and reducing UNRWA's role by Israel's systematic campaigns against the agency. Clashes between Palestinian demonstrators and Israeli forces flared up following Friday prayers in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, leaving 10 Palestinians injured. Eyewitnesses said Israeli soldiers fired tear gas, rubber-coated metal bullets and live gunshots at stone-throwing Palestinian demonstrators in the northern West Bank city of El-Bire. The Palestinian Health Ministry said dozens were treated in the field after inhaling tear gas. Similar clashes also broke out in several other West Bank towns and cities where Israeli soldiers used the same force to disperse protesters. Meanwhile, in the northern Gaza earlier today, an Israeli airstrike hit a neighborhood next to Beit Hanun, damaging a residential building. U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis said that while he does not have evidence of the nerve agent sarin being used by the Syrian government, the United States was looking into reports about its use and was concerned. Mattis told reporters that the Syrian government had repeatedly used chlorine as a weapon, but the Syrian government has said it has not carried out any such attacks. U.S. officials have said the Syrian government may be developing new types of chemical weapons, and U.S. President Donald Trump is prepared to consider further military action if necessary to chemical attacks. An estimated 90 migrants are feared to have drowned off the Libyan coast after a smuggler's boat capsized early today, leaving 3 known survivors and 10 bodies washed up on shore. According to the International Organization for Migration, IOM, most of the migrants on board were Pakistanis. Earlier, security officials in the western Libyan town of Zuwara said 2 Libyans and 1 Pakistani had been rescued from the boat. Zuwara was a favorite site for migrant boat departures over the past 2 years, but of late has seen only occasional departures.
We think there's about 260 have died so far this year alone. So here you're adding another 90 to that. So it's a really significant episode at a time when people continue to try to get to Europe. They're lured there by social media. They get onto a phone, they promise El Dorado, they think life is going to be great, and before they know it, they're getting into the hands of awful criminal extorting people, smugglers, traffickers. There's dreadful, shocking torture.
In New Zealand, huge waves came crashing into shore in Nelson as a downgraded cyclone left behind debris, destruction and floods. The storm following the downgraded cyclone Fehi also left a boat marooned on shore and damaged buildings and infrastructure near the coast. The storm this week brought heavy rain, forcing authorities to declare a state of emergency and ask people not to travel by road. Authorities said work on repairing the damage was underway. New Zealand's weather forecaster Met Service said the storm was moving southeast, providing some relief to the country's west coast, which had been hardest hit by the heavy rain and strong winds. In sports, Australia and Germany finished level at 1-1 after the opening day of their Davis Cup tie in Brisbane. Germany's Alexander Zverev was pushed to the limits in the opening rubber, with the world number 5 edging out Australian teenager Alex de Minaur 7-5, 4-6, 4-6, 6-3, 7-6 to give his country the lead. Nick Kyrgios had far less trouble in his match against Germany's Jan-Lennard Struff, the Australian cruising to a 6-4, 6-4, 6-4 victory to level the tie ahead of tomorrow's doubles. And finally, a quick look at the weather forecast. It will continue to be cold tonight with easterly moderate winds. As for tomorrow, and with a further rise in temperatures, the weather will continue to be fair in most regions, especially in the Jordan Valley and the Dead Sea. Amman can expect a high of 17 degrees Celsius and a low of 10 degrees, while in the Gulf of Aqaba it will be warm with a high of 28 degrees, sliding down to 17 degrees at night. With this, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Dana Abusham. Thanks for watching and have a good night.